Every species in the Galactic Federation knows the one cardinal rule: never, under any circumstances, attack human children. It's not written down anywhere official. You won't find it in the 1,000-page Constitution or the interstellar treaties, but everyone knows it. Everyone except, apparently, the Galactic Council themselves. My name is Zorax Veen, Chief Security Officer for the Galactic Council's 7th Diplomatic Fleet. I've spent 63 cycles maintaining peace throughout 17 star systems. I've negotiated with the methane-breathing Quolbar, survived an assassination attempt by the hive-minded Trexelians, and once had dinner with 3 separate Valdorian queens without causing an interspecies incident. I thought I'd seen everything. Then the Council decided to kidnap 27 human children. This is the stupidest decision in the history of stupid decisions, I announced, pacing the command deck of our flagship, the Celestial Harmony. And I once watched Ambassador Plynn try to mate with a garbage disposal unit. Fleet Commander Urla blinked her 4 eyes in succession, a sign of extreme irritation. Your opinion has been noted, Officer Veen, heard for the 14th time. Well, noted a 15th time. We're all going to die. You do understand that, right? The humans will exterminate us. Urla waved a dismissive tentacle. The humans are primitive. They haven't even mastered faster than light travel without our technology. And their weapon systems are decades behind ours. I stopped pacing and stared at her. Are you genuinely this ignorant of human history? Or did you miss the part where they fought 3 world wars before even reaching their moon? Or how about the Trilonan incident? That was merely a coincidence. Urla sniffed. A coincidence? The Trilonans abducted 1 human child for scientific research. And 2 weeks later, their entire civilization collapsed when every single piece of technology on their planet simultaneously malfunctioned. Their atmospheric shields failed. Their water purification systems reversed direction. Even their toilet facilities began operating backward. There was never any proof the humans were responsible, Urla said. But I noticed her skin had paled slightly. Because they never claimed responsibility. They didn't have to. Everyone knew. And now you've helped the Council abduct 27 children. Do you understand the exponential nature of the retribution we're about to face? The ship's communication officer, a young Phylaxian named Grizz, raised his hand nervously. Sir? Ma'am? We're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in all known galactic languages. My stomach did that peculiar dropping thing that evolution had never quite managed to eliminate from my species. Put it through. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a single human female. She wore no military uniform, no official insignia, just simple civilian clothing. That was more terrifying than if she'd been dressed in full battle armor. Greetings, Galactic Council, she said, her voice unnervingly calm. My name is Tessa Wright. I am a kindergarten teacher from Iowa. You have taken my students. You will return them unharmed within 48 Earth hours, or we will be forced to retrieve them ourselves. This is not a negotiation. The transmission ended. The command deck was silent for exactly 3 seconds before I burst out laughing. It wasn't humor. It was pure, unadulterated terror. A kindergarten teacher. I wheezed, clutching my thoracic cavity. We're being threatened by a kindergarten teacher. Do you know what that is? It's a human who specializes in controlling rooms full of their young. Have you ever seen human children, Commander? They're like miniature chaos engines with no self-preservation instinct. This is just bluster, Urla said. But her tentacles were now twitching spasmodically. The humans have no way to reach us. We're 16 light years from Earth, and they have no FTL capability without our assistance. That we know of, I muttered. The Council has determined that these specific human children display unusual cognitive abilities, Urla continued. Their brains show activity patterns that suggest latent psychic potential. The research is vital for understanding how such abilities might be cultivated in other species. I slumped into my command chair. So we kidnapped potential psychics from a species known for their ingenuity, tenacity, and disproportionate retaliation. Perfect. The children are being well treated, Urla insisted. They have comfortable quarters, appropriate nutrition, and entertainment facilities. As if on cue, the ship lurched violently, throwing several crew members from their stations. Alarm sirens began wailing. What was that? Urla demanded. Grizz, the communications officer, looked up from his console with wide eyes. Ma'am. The children have escaped their quarters. They seem to have constructed some sort of weapon from their entertainment devices. Security reports that they're systematically taking control of the lower decks. I buried my face in my hands. Of course they are. Humans can weaponize anything. Their entire evolution was one long exercise in turning harmless objects into ways to kill things bigger than themselves. Another violent shudder ran through the ship. That wasn't the children. Our tactical officer reported. Something just attached itself to our hull. Multiple somethings. They appear to be boarding pods? The main view screen activated without command, showing a grainy feed from one of our external cameras. Small, sleek vessels were attaching themselves to our hull like metallic remoras. As we watched, cutting lasers began carving through the Celestial Harmony's supposedly impenetrable armor. That's impossible, Urla whispered. Human technology can't do that. And even if it could, they couldn't have reached us this quickly. You still don't get it, I said, almost feeling sorry for her. When it comes to protecting their young, humans don't obey the laws of physics. They bend reality through sheer, stubborn determination. The ship's internal communication system crackled, and a child's voice came through clearly. Attention, alien spaceship. This is Danny, age 6 3/4. Me and my friends have taken over your engine room. Your purple octopus guys were very nice and surrendered right away when Jenny showed them her finger painting of what would happen if they didn't. Please don't be scared. Miss Wright says we shouldn't hurt anyone, unless they're being deliberately obtuse, whatever that means. Also, we're hungry. Your food tastes like grass and pennies. I couldn't help it. I started laughing again. We're being defeated by children, Urla said, her voice hollow. No, we're being defeated by human children, I corrected. There's a difference. The main doors to the command deck slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Everyone turned, expecting to see hostile human forces. Instead, a single human child stepped through. She couldn't have been more than 7 Earth years old, with dark curly hair and a missing front tooth. She was wearing what appeared to be a makeshift crown fashioned from communication equipment. Hi, she said cheerfully. I'm Zoe. I'm in charge now. Urla drew herself up to her full height, tentacles flaring. Young human. This is the command deck of a Galactic Council vessel. You cannot simply declare yourself in charge. Zoe tilted her head. I just did though, and you can't stop me because your ship listens to me now. I asked it nicely. She held up a crude drawing. See? This is me and your ship being friends. To my horror, the ship's AI responded, confirmed. This unit has recalibrated command protocols as requested by Supreme Admiral Zoe. She drew me with a happy face. Previous commanders never drew me with a happy face. Urla collapsed into her command chair, all 4 eyes staring blankly ahead. How? I asked the child, genuinely curious despite our dire situation. How did you communicate with our AI? It's programmed to respond only to authorized personnel with specific security clearances. Zoe shrugged. I said please. Nobody ever says please to computers. That's rude. Before I could process this statement, the view screen activated again. This time it showed the interior of what appeared to be a human vessel. The same woman from the earlier transmission, Tessa Wright, stood at its center. Behind her were approximately 30 adult humans, each wearing ordinary civilian clothing but carrying themselves with unmistakable military precision. Hello again, she said. I see my students have already made themselves comfortable. Well done, Zoe. Thanks, Miss Wright. Zoe beamed. I made friends with their computer. Of course you did, sweetheart. The kindergarten teacher's smile was warm when addressing the child, but turned glacial when she shifted her gaze to Urla. Commander, my colleagues and I have boarded your vessel. We would like to collect our children now. Your colleagues? Yorla managed to ask, who are you people? How did you reach us so quickly? One of the humans behind Tessa Wright stepped forward slightly. He was unremarkable in appearance, wearing what I recognized as casual Earth attire, jeans and a t-shirt according to our cultural database. We're parents, he said simply, and teachers and coaches. The adults responsible for these children. As for how we reached you, Tessa continued, let's just say that humanity has been selective about what technology we've shared with the galactic community. When our children went missing, several parents in our little town made some calls to some old friends. It turns out that Mrs. Abernathy, who runs the local bakery, used to design experimental propulsion systems. And Mr. Jensen, our school janitor, has 3 PhDs in quantum physics. He's been theorizing about this particular application of faster-than-light travel for years, but never had sufficient motivation to perfect it. Her smile turned predatory. The abduction of his triplets provided that motivation. I turned to Yorla. I told you, I hissed. I told you. We monitored your transmission, Yorla said desperately. Earth has no vessels capable of this kind of interstellar travel. Not officially, another human agreed. Just like we don't officially have the ability to override your ship's systems, or disable your weapons, or reprogram your environmental controls. He looked down at a small device in his hand. By the way, you might want to evacuate Deck 12 in the next few minutes. The gravity is about to reverse. As if to punctuate his statement, distant screams echoed through the ship's communication system. You're just teachers and parents? Yorla asked weakly. We're human teachers and parents, Tessa corrected. Now, I believe we were discussing the return of our children, though it seems they've done an admirable job of rescuing themselves. The command deck doors opened again, and more children poured in, followed by several of the human adults who had apparently been making their way through the ship. The adults weren't obviously armed, but they didn't need to be. The look in their eyes was weapon enough. Miss Wright. Several children cried, running to embrace their teacher. We took over the alien spaceship. Danny figured out their computers, and Jenny scared them with her drawings, and I made friends with the purple octopus people. That's wonderful, sweetie, Tessa said, kneeling to hug a small boy. Did you remember to say please and thank you? Yes, even to the computer. I watched this reunion with a growing sense of existential dread. The humans weren't acting like a species that had just performed an impossible technological feat and overwhelmed a superior military force. They were acting like they'd just completed a mildly challenging group project. A human male approached me, extending his hand in their traditional greeting gesture. Marcus Abrams, Danny's dad. You must be the security officer. You have the look of someone who knew this was a terrible idea from the start. I reluctantly took his hand. Zorax Veen, and yes, I did try to warn them. Smart. He smiled. Hey, while we're here, would you mind if we take a look at your engine specifications? My wife's been working on some improvements to our FTL design, and she'd love to compare notes. Your wife is a propulsion engineer? I asked. Oh no, she's an elementary school librarian, but space engines are her hobby. He said this like it was the most normal thing in the universe, and that, right there, is why you don't mess with human children, because their adults are even scarier. The next 12 hours aboard the Celestial Harmony were unlike anything I'd experienced in my 63 cycles of existence. The humans had effectively taken control of our vessel, but rather than imprisoning the crew or exacting revenge, they seemed primarily interested in giving their children a tour. And this, I explained to a group of wide-eyed human youngsters and their equally curious parents, is our quantum communication array. It allows instantaneous transmission of data across unlimited distances by exploiting entangled particle pairs. Like spooky action at a distance, exclaimed a small human girl with braided hair. Einstein was right about quantum entanglement, but wrong about it being impossible to use for communication. I blinked slowly. Yes, that's. How do you know about quantum physics? The girl, Lily, I'd learned her name was, shrugged. My mom explains it at bedtime. It helps me fall asleep. Her mother, a serene-looking woman named Dr. Patel, smiled. Children's brains are like sponges. They absorb everything, especially when you don't simplify concepts unnecessarily. This was becoming a disturbingly common theme in my conversations with the humans. Their children possessed knowledge that would qualify them as specialists on most council worlds. And their adults. They were terrifying in their casual competence. Take Marcus Abrams, father of Danny. He was currently helping our engineering team repair damage to the propulsion system, damage caused by his own son's improvised sabotage. I might add, while simultaneously suggesting improvements. If you recalibrate the quantum flux regulator to operate at this resonance frequency, he was saying, pointing to calculations he'd scribbled on a piece of paper, you'll get about 22% more efficiency and reduce your exotic matter consumption by a third. Our chief engineer, a quintillion with 3 advanced degrees, stared at the calculations, then slowly lowered all 6 of his eye stalks in their species' expression of profound respect. This is revolutionary. How did you figure this out? Marcus shrugged. Just a hobby. I'm actually a dental hygienist. I left them to their technical discussion and made my way back to the command deck, where Commander Urla was engaged in negotiations with Tessa, Wright, and several other humans. Urla had abandoned her earlier hostility and was now in full diplomatic damage control mode. The Galactic Council deeply regrets this unfortunate misunderstanding, she was saying. I assure you there will be a full investigation into how this operation was approved without proper protocols. Tessa Wright's expression remained pleasantly neutral, which somehow made it more intimidating. I'm sure there will be. In the meantime, we have some concerns about other human children who may have been taken. Other children? Urla's tentacles froze mid-gesture. I assure you, this was an isolated incident. Really? A human male stepped forward. He wore a simple button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows and had the weathered look of someone who spent time outdoors. Because our preliminary scan of your databases suggests at least 3 other groups of human children have been abducted from different regions of Earth over the past 2 years. Urla shot me a panicked look. I carefully kept my expression neutral. I had been aware of these previous operations, of course, but they weren't conducted by our fleet. They were specialized missions personally authorized by the High Council. That information must be incorrect, Urla stammered. Phil Tucker. The man introduced himself to me, ignoring Urla's denials. High school history teacher. I also coach baseball. He extended his hand, which I reluctantly shook. You look like someone who values honesty. Officer Vane. Are there other human children being held by your people? I looked at Urla, who was frantically signaling me to deny everything. Then I looked at the assembled humans. They had already demonstrated technology we thought beyond them. They had disabled and boarded our vessel with ridiculous ease. Their children had overpowered our security forces using improvised weapons fashioned from toys. And most importantly, they hadn't hurt anyone. They could have. But they didn't. Yes, I admitted. There are 9 children being held at the Council's primary research facility in the Cygnus system, 14 more at a secondary facility near Betelgeuse, and 3 particularly unique individuals at the High Council's private installation on Proxima Centauri b. Urla shrieked, her skin flushing bright orange in fury. That's classified information. You're committing treason. No, I countered calmly. I'm preventing an interspecies war, a war we would lose, Commander. The room fell silent as the humans processed this information. I expected anger, threats, demands. Instead, Tessa Wright simply nodded and turned to a quiet woman who had been standing near the back of the group. Lisa, how quickly can you get coordinates from their navigation system? The woman, apparently Lisa, didn't even look up from the small device she was tapping on. Already done. I've transmitted the locations to the other teams. They're mobilizing now. Other teams? Urla's voice had risen an octave. Did you think we only sent 1 ship? Phil Tucker asked. genuine curiosity in his voice. We may be, what did you call us? Primitive, but we do understand basic tactical principles. Never commit all your forces to a single approach. I felt a surge of respect for these humans. They hadn't just mounted a miraculous rescue operation. They had coordinated a comprehensive military response with multiple vectors. And they had done it all in less than 48 Earth hours, using technology they weren't supposed to have. What happens now? I asked. Now, Tessa Wright said, we're going to collect all the human children your council has taken. We're going to bring them home. And then we're going to have a very serious conversation with your leadership about boundaries and consequences. The High Council won't speak with you, Yorla scoffed, regaining some of her composure. You're not an officially recognized species representative. You're just teachers and parents. Several of the humans exchanged amused glances. Actually, said a woman who had introduced herself as a soccer mom, named Vanessa, our group includes 3 former Special Forces operators, a retired diplomat, 2 aerospace engineers, and a quantum physicist. Earth governance has granted us provisional authority to negotiate on behalf of humanity in this matter. And if negotiations fail? I asked quietly. Phil Tucker smiled grimly. Let's just say we're highly motivated to find a peaceful resolution, and for everyone's sake. Before anyone could respond, the ship's communication system chimed. Incoming transmission from Earth, Grizz announced from his station, sounding surprised. It's being directed specifically to the human delegation. Put it through, Tessa instructed, as if she were the one in command, which, effectively, she was. The view screen flickered to life, showing an older human male in what appeared to be a home workshop. Tools and half-finished projects cluttered the background. He was wiping his hands on a rag and looking pleased with himself. Tessa. Good news. We figured out how their planetary defense grid works. Tom and Jackie isolated the control frequencies, and we can now remotely deactivate any Council world's orbital shields whenever we want. Just thought you should mention that during your talks. Thank you, Harold, Tessa replied calmly. That's very helpful. The transmission ended. The command deck was silent. That's impossible, Yorla whispered, her tentacles now hanging limply. Our defense grid uses proprietary encryption that would take centuries to break. Harold used to work in computer security before he retired, Tessa explained, as if that clarified everything. He's been bored lately. Your defense system gave him something interesting to play with. I couldn't help myself. I started laughing again. What's so funny? Yorla demanded. Don't you get it yet? I gasped between bouts of laughter. We've been underestimating them for centuries. We thought we were being so clever, doling out limited technology, keeping them dependent on us for interstellar travel. All this time, they've been letting us think they were behind us technologically because it was convenient for them. That's not entirely accurate, Phil Tucker said. We genuinely appreciate the technological exchange program, but when it comes to protecting our children, he shrugged. Let's just say necessity is the mother of innovation. And speaking of mothers, Tessa added, we should probably tell you about what's happening back on Earth right now. A cold feeling settled in my gut. What do you mean? Well, while we've been here dealing with this situation, the families of the children you took, the ones who didn't come on this mission, have been busy. Very busy. Tessa nodded to Lisa, who tapped her device. The view screen changed to show multiple news feeds from various council worlds. My blood froze as I processed what I was seeing. Financial systems crashing. Transportation networks freezing. Communication arrays mysteriously rerouting signals. And on at least 3 planets, the atmospheric control systems were fluctuating wildly, not enough to cause harm, but enough to demonstrate vulnerability. That's just a sample, Lisa said quietly. It's a demonstration. You're attacking civilian infrastructure, Urla accused. That violates every treaty your planet has signed. No one's been hurt, Tessa pointed out, and technically, those systems are experiencing, let's call them unscheduled maintenance issues, all perfectly reversible. Grandparents can be so protective of their grandchildren, Phil added with a hint of amusement, and many of them have a lot of free time for hobbies. and many of them. Over the next few hours, we received reports from across council space. Every single human child in custody was being recovered by hastily assembled parent-teacher associations, and a term that would soon send shivers down the spine of every council security officer. The humans moved with the precision of elite military units combined with the creative problem-solving of people accustomed to managing classrooms full of unpredictable small humans. By the time we reached the coordinates for the Council's primary research facility, the human rescue teams had already come and gone. They left behind bewildered scientists, disabled security systems, and in one memorable case, an entire facility redecorated with cheerful artwork courtesy of the rescued children. 2 days later, we found ourselves in orbit around Earth preparing for the unprecedented. The entire High Council had agreed to meet with the human delegation, not in the Grand Council chambers, but on human territory. A schoolyard, specifically. The same one from which Tessa Wright's students had been taken. This is highly irregular, Grand Councilor Fex grumbled as our diplomatic shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Meeting in a human educational facility rather than a proper diplomatic venue. With respect, Counselor, I replied carefully. The humans were quite insistent, and given recent events, accommodating their request seemed prudent. Fex glared at me with all three of his eyes. I had been temporarily promoted to Chief Diplomatic Liaison following Yurla's reassignment to waste management duties on a remote mining colony. It wasn't punishment. Officially, it's just a strategic reallocation of personnel. We landed in an open area adjacent to a colorful building surrounded by play equipment. As our delegation disembarked, I was struck by how ordinary everything looked. This was not a military installation or government complex. It was simply a place where human children learned. Tessa Wright greeted us, flanked by several adults I recognized from the ship and many more I didn't. Behind them stood a much larger crowd of humans, parents, teachers, community members. Some held signs with messages like "Hands off our kids and we come in peace, unless you take our children." "Welcome to Lincoln Elementary," Tessa said pleasantly. "The children are very excited to meet you officially. They've prepared a presentation." "A presentation?" Grand Councilor Fex repeated dubiously. "Yes. They wanted to explain why taking them without permission was wrong, and what will happen if anyone tries it again." Her smile never wavered. They made visual aids. We were escorted to a large room inside the building. An auditorium according to the signage. The High Council members were seated in the front row, with the rest of us behind them. I noticed subtle but unmistakable security measures throughout the room. The humans were taking no chances, despite their friendly demeanor. The presentation began with the children we had abducted standing on stage, introducing themselves and describing their experience. Far from being traumatized, they seemed to view the whole incident as an exciting adventure. Several proudly recounted how they had outsmarted our security systems. Then came the part that would fundamentally change galactic politics forever. "And now," announced a small human boy with missing front teeth, "we want to show you what humans can do if you make us mad by taking our kids." What followed was a meticulously detailed outline of human capabilities that had been deliberately concealed from the galactic community. Faster than light travel without reliance on Council technology, weapons systems that could bypass our most advanced defenses, communication methods undetectable by our monitoring networks, and most alarmingly, the ability to remotely access and control virtually any Council technology. "We call it the nuclear option," explained 10-year-old Jenny, pointing to a particularly alarming slide showing what appeared to be a complete schematic of the Council's central planetary defense network. "Not because it uses nuclear power, but because it's like, a really big deal. We can shut down everything you have. But we don't want to." Grand Councilor Fex leaned toward me. "Are they bluffing?" he whispered urgently. I considered the events of the past few days, the impossible speed with which they had reached our ship, the ease with which they had neutralized our defenses, the coordinated actions across multiple star systems. "No, Counselor," I replied. "I don't believe they are." The children concluded their presentation with a series of drawings depicting humans and various Council species playing together peacefully. The message was clear. They preferred friendship over conflict. When the lights came back up, Tessa Wright took the stage. We understand that your council was interested in studying our children because of their cognitive abilities, she said. We're open to scientific collaboration. We welcome cultural exchange. But it must be done with informed consent and proper ethical oversight. And if we refuse? Fex challenged, though his posture suggested he already knew the answer. A man I hadn't seen before stepped forward from the crowd. He wore simple clothes and had the gentle demeanor of someone who worked with children, yet something about him made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. My name is David Torres, he said quietly. I teach 4th grade math and science. 3 of my students were among those taken. Mayo. He paused, making eye contact with each council member. For the past 50 years, humanity has maintained the fiction that we need your help to navigate the stars. We've accepted your technological gifts while hiding our own advancements. We've played the role of the promising but junior species because it served our purposes. He smiled. And it wasn't entirely friendly. That arrangement ends today. We're prepared to rejoin galactic society as full equals, with all the benefits and responsibilities that entails. Or we can continue our own path separately. But either way, the rules have changed. Grand Counselor Fex shifted uncomfortably. And what are the new rules? Tessa Wright answered. Just one, really. The same rule that has always existed but that you chose to ignore. Don't mess with our children. In the days that followed, the Galactic Council ratified the Terra Accord, granting Earth unprecedented autonomy and recognition. Officially, it was described as a progressive step toward greater interspecies cooperation. Unofficially, every council member knew the truth. We had awakened a sleeping giant. As for me, I requested permanent assignment as liaison to Earth. Someone needed to help the council understand these humans, and I had developed a certain appreciation for their particular blend of terrifying capability and disarming friendliness. Plus, their ice cream is exceptional. My first official duty was to attend a parent-teacher conference, apparently a regular meeting between the adults responsible for educating human children and those responsible for raising them. I expected formal diplomatic protocols. Instead, I found myself in a classroom surrounded by ordinary humans discussing everything from mathematics curriculum to proper snack policies. How do you do it? I finally asked Tessa Wright as the meeting concluded. How do humans maintain such duality? Your species contains kindergarten teachers who can coordinate interstellar military operations, parents who can crack encryption systems supposedly impervious to attack, children who view commandeering an alien vessel as an amusing diversion. Tessa considered the question. I don't think it's duality, Zorax. It's adaptability. Humans have always needed to be ready for anything, whether that's teaching a child to tie their shoes or defending our families from threats. She smiled. The biggest mistake your council made wasn't taking our children. It was assuming that because we choose peaceful cooperation, we're incapable of anything else. As I watched the humans go about their ordinary lives I now knew concealed extraordinary capabilities, I realized that the first rule of the galaxy had been expanded. It wasn't just don't attack human children. It was don't underestimate humans, period. A lesson the Galactic Council would not soon forget.